Hello, my friends. This is Dr. B, the best doctor in medicine, the best of the best of the best. 30 plus years in medicine. Today, I want to talk to you about what is the mechanism by which cancer develops. Why is it that people have cancer? What happens at the cellular level? Of course, obviously, everybody knows that smoking, ultraviolet radiation, blah, 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 can cause cancer, right? Dozens and dozens of reasons why people can develop cancer. But what happens at the cellular level? What is it that smoking, ultraviolet radiation, carcinogens in the food, blah, 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 make those cells in our body become cancerous? Otherwise said, the cellular mechanism of cancer. And obviously, I'm going to make it so easy, so down to earth for you, the regular Joe, Jane, who doesn't have knowledge of medicine, science, biology. I will make it easy for you to understand so that you know what to do about it. All right? Remember that cancer is the second killer of mankind. Number one killer is, of course, a heart attack, right? Cardiovascular disease, heart attack. Number two is, of course, cancer. So I'm going to explain to you why cancer happens at the cellular level. Pay attention to your body. Look at your body. It is made of a lot of organs. The brain, the heart, the liver, the kidneys, the stomach, the intestine, the lungs, the skin. The skin is the largest organ of your body, right? The bones, blah, 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 the muscles, blah, 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 right? We, the human being, is made of a collection of organs that come together and form systems, right? The cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, the digestive system, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. If you take an organ, whichever it is, whether the brain, the heart, the kidneys, the liver, and you cut it in slices, and you put little slices under a microscope, what are you going to see? Well, you're going to see that this organ, whichever it is made of billions of little cells, tiny little cells, right? That are the building blocks of organs and tissues, right? Like a house is made of bricks, right? Not all house, but you get the point. The bricks that make up the house are the building blocks of that house. In the same way, the tiny microscopic cells are the building blocks of your organs, right? Altogether, it is estimated by histologists, by scientists, right, that an average human body has about 37 trillion, not billion, not million, trillion cells. Okay? So we are made of an average of 37 trillion cells. Think about that. Trillion. Now, pay attention. These cells, these 37 trillion cells that we have, they don't live forever. They have a certain life span, a certain life expectancy. After that life span, they die, right? They die. And they have to be replaced, therefore, with new cells so that we can keep being who we are, right? Let me give you an example. Our blood is made of billions of tiny little cells that we call red blood cells, among other things, right? But blood contains billions of tiny little red blood cells that we call erythrocytes that are full of hemoglobin to carry oxygen, and that's what gives the red color to blood, right? Each of these tiny red blood cells has an average life span of 120 days, 4 months. So these red blood cells have to be replaced, right? They have to be replaced because after 120 days, the red blood cells die and they have to be replaced by new red blood cells so that we can continue carrying oxygen to our tissues, right? Where do these red blood cells that replace the old ones come from? Well, they come from the bone marrow. Inside the bone marrow, we have billions of stem cells. These are tiny little cells that are precursor, and they're going to divide and create new red blood cells, right? The same way you plant a seed in the dirt, it becomes a tree, right? So the same way we have these tiny little cells that are stem cells, we call them stem cells, in the bone marrow, that are going to divide, right, and create new red blood cells. Same thing for the white blood cells in our body to defend us against infection, viruses, blah, blah, blah. They have an average of about 1 month. After 1 month, inside the bone marrow, we have other stem cells that specialize in creating new white blood cells so that we can defend against infection, viruses, bacteria, blah, 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 right? You get my point. Let me give you a quick another example. My skin, your skin, the biggest organ in your body, right, is your skin. Every day, billions of cells, old ones, they shed from your skin. They shed. When you wash yourself, you walk around, you get what I mean, right? You rub your skin against anything, right? Especially when you take a shower and you rub your skin to make yourself nice and clean. Well, at the same time, you remove billions of dead skin cells. We call them keratinocytes, but who cares? Dead skin cells. They have to be replaced, right, to make you nice and new, healthy skin. And at the basal layer of your skin, you look at your skin, at the bottom layer under a microscope, if you look at that skin, there are some cells that are stem cells to produce new cells for your skin, right? So in our body, we have different stem cells that specialize in creating new cells for every organ. Same thing in the liver. We have stem cells in the liver to replace the old cells of the liver. We have stem cells in our stomach, in our intestine, right? Because the old cells die, they have to be replaced by the new cells. And these new cells come from the division, right? The divide of the stem cells. These stem cells are beautiful. There are different types, different varieties, right? And they produce new cells, right? For every organ, so that we can keep going. Now pay attention. These stem cells cannot divide in an irregular, uncontrolled fashion, right? They have to stop dividing when there is no need for new cells, right? So they produce new cells by division, and then they wait until the new cells die themselves. Then again they start dividing to produce new cells. All right? Makes sense, right? So the bone marrow that has all these billions of stem cells, those stem cells wait until there's more need for red blood cells, then they start dividing again. So the stem cells of every organ have to divide only when needed, not like this on a permanent, constant 24-hour-a-day basis, right? Therefore, there are some genes in the stem cells that control the division of these stem cells. These genes are responsible for preventing these stem cells from dividing constantly, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, right? So these genes, there are a few of them, the gene P53, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to go into the detail, right? But one of the major one is the gene P53. It's the major among all the genes that prevents these stem cells from all the time dividing and creating more cells endlessly. So the P53 is one of these major genes, right? So now think about this. Let me just tell you that these genes, we call them, but you don't need to remember these, just for you to know. Tumor suppressor gene. Tumor suppressor gene. TSG. Tumor suppressor genes. These are a group of a few genes in those stem cells that are controlling these stem cells and are telling them, you can't divide like this, you have to wait, right? I mean, I make it easy, but it's extremely complicated. Molecular biology, cellular biology is extremely complicated. People study at the doctorate level to become a doctor in molecular biology, a doctor in cellular biology. I'm very good in molecular biology and cellular biology, but I'm a doctor in medicine. I didn't go into the field of molecular biology, but I want to keep it easy for you. So these genes are keeping a lid over a leash, let's call it a leash, over these stem cells so that they don't replicate all the time. Now think about this. What would happen if there was a genetic mutation in the DNA of these genes, right? Imagine a genetic mutation in the DNA of these genes that control these stem cells, right? These tumor suppressor genes, TSG, right? You know that genes are made of DNA, right? The genes that make me who I am, that I got half from my mom, half from my dad. The genes who make you who you are, that you got half of them from your mom, half of them from your dad. These genes are made of DNA, right? The DNA. Now imagine what would happen if there was a genetic mutation in these genes that keep a leash on these stem cells. Well, those genes are no longer going to be able to function. They are going to become dysfunctional. They will no longer be able to control and to keep a leash on these stem cells, and these stem cells now, they are no longer under control. What are they going to do? They're going to keep dividing and dividing and dividing endlessly. They're going to just never, ever stop. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, they're just going to keep dividing and dividing. And therefore, they become cancer cells. So cancer is when one of these stem cells, right, undergoes a mutation in the genes that control it from dividing endlessly. So those genes undergo mutation. They no longer function normally. That single tiny freaking stem cells becomes cancerous. One, it divides, becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16, 16 becomes 32, 32 becomes 64, blah, blah. It just keeps going until you can see the tumor on an ultrasound, on an x-ray, on a radiogram, on anything, or you can palpate, oh my God, I have a lump in my thyroid, doctor, what the cat's is going on? Oh, look at that, I have a new lump on my skin. Oh, they do a biopsy, it's a cancer, right? So cancer comes from the mutation in the DNA of those genes that normally keep control on those stem cells and prevent them from developing. So the stem cells that was one with a mutated gene starts dividing because it's very happy. There's no longer any gene that can stop it. Well, It becomes more and more and more and more. The tumor develops. The tumor pushes the normal organ cells away, so the liver gets bigger. So the liver is no longer functional because of this space-occupying lesion. Imagine the guy brain tumor, so the tumor gets bigger, pushes the brain to the other side, causes increased pressure in the brain, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to go into the detail of oncology. The point is just to explain to you that 95%, I don't want to go into the 5% left, 95% of cancers come from a mutation in the DNA of those genes that normally control the division of those stem cells, and those stem cells go crazy. They keep dividing endlessly. Slowly it becomes bigger and bigger. That's the tumor called a cancer, malignant tumor called a cancer. It's crazy. It is crazy. Now, your question at this stage might be, okay, Dr. B, you told me that cancer, 95%, again, forget about the 5% left. 95% of cancer, Dr. B, cancers come from a mutation in the DNA of those genes that we call tumor suppressor genes in those stem cells. So your question is right now, what causes, Dr. B, those mutations in the DNA? This is an excellent question. Now that you know that 95% of cancers come from a DNA mutations in the genes that we call tumor suppressor genes located inside those beautiful stem cells, right? Now the question is, where does the freaking DNA mutation comes from, right? And on that, we have to refer you to this beautiful publication, scientific work by the #1 cancer researcher in the United States, if not in the entire world, called Bert Vogelstein, B-E-R-T, Vogelstein, who published his amazing scientific study on January 2nd, 2015, in the beautiful journal, scientific journal called Science, right? Bert Vogelstein, the #1 cancer researcher in the US, if not the entire world, published his study January 2nd, 2015 in the journal Science, and he determined scientifically that 66% of these freaking mutation of the DNA in those genes are a random freak accidents of nature. There's nothing we can do about it, right? 66%. 29% of those mutations in those genes of those tumor suppressor genes, 29% are caused by environmental factors that we can control. Smoking, pollution, ultraviolet radiation, right? Ultraviolet radiation, carcinogens in the food, alcohol, blah, blah, blah. These are the 5 top carcinogens of the International Agency for Research on Cancer. Alcohol, smoking, air pollution, and of course carcinogen in your food, and of course ultraviolet radiation, group 1 carcinogens of the International Agency on Research for Research on Cancer, IARC, founded in 1963 in the city of Lyon, France, the second city in France. So 29% of this cancer, of these mutations that cause cancer, we can prevent them by avoiding smoking, air pollution, alcohol, junk food, and of course ultraviolet radiation. 29%. 5% are inherited genes, mutated genes from your parents. But think about this. Bert Vogelstein proved to you that you can prevent 29% of these DNA mutations by staying away from going under the sun or wearing protection, of course, smoking, air pollution, alcohol, and all this freaking carcinogen in our food. It is crazy. Guys, anybody who eats processed food is a fool. Right? Anybody. It doesn't matter whether you're a scientist, a doctor, a radiologist, a plumber, a carpenter, a bus driver, a musician, an artist, a comedian. If you are still eating processed food, you are a fool because you don't know the carcinogens, the pesticides, the insecticides that you are putting in your body with the pretext of enjoying life. Just like my sister and my family members. They don't realize what they're doing to themselves until they will be diagnosed with a cancer. Means there will be these 29% of DNA mutations in the genes that control their stem cells. But they didn't care because they kept eating and going to the beach with no protection and air pollution and, of course, all these nasty carcinogen we eat in our food. Guys, don't put processed food in your body. I mean, it's crazy what people do to themselves. You know, buy healthy food, make your own food at home. Don't buy freaking red meat. People buy red meat at the store. It's full of carcinogens. The number one carcinogen is nitrate and nitrite that they put on the red dye. They are all carcinogen. They go into your stomach, they become nitrosamine and give you stomach cancer. That's why the rate of cancers has increased so much. All the pollutants and carcinogen that you find in the water. Not in Mountain View where I live. The water is clean. I bought an analyzer. It's absolutely clean. But in San Jose, it's nasty. In San Francisco, the water is nasty. In Los Angeles, the water is nasty. Right? Don't drink that tap water. Buy regular water. But in Mountain View, where I live, is absolutely pristine water. I test it, and I test it every 6 months with my own chemical analyzer that I bought. So it is very, very, very important to stay away from these 29% of causes of DNA mutations in your stem cells so that you don't get cancer. Now, what are you going to do about those 66% of mutations in your stem cells that are a freak of nature, a random occurrence, right? According to Bert Vogelstein. Well, that's when you have to detect cancer very early. Do your mammogram, do your PSA blood test for prostate cancer, do your regular checkups, have a thyroid ultrasound, blah, blah, blah. Make sure you have a pancreatic cancer screening ultrasound. I posted a video about that. I mean, there's so many ways to detect the cancer early so that you can beat it, right? You can beat it. So remember, and I will wrap it up. 95% of cancers are caused by your DNA mutations in the genes that normally control your beautiful stem cells from dividing endlessly without any control, right? If you have a DNA mutation in those genes, they become dysfunctional. And then those stem cells keep dividing endlessly without control. That's what becomes a tumor. It grows bigger and bigger, right? And according to Bert Vogelstein, the number one cancer researcher in the US, if not the world, 66% of those DNA mutations in those genes of your stem cells are a random mutation. 29% are caused by an environmental factor that you can control, and 5% are inherited from your mom, your dad. You can't do anything about that, right? Whatever your mom or dad gave you, that's what you got. But you can detect the cancer early by screening, right? So stay away from tobacco smoking, from air pollution, from carcinogens in the food, and they are everywhere, from ultraviolet radiation, and of course from alcohol. These 5 group 1 carcinogen of the International Agency for Research on Cancer. And for the 66% left, make sure you do your cancer screening regularly so that in case You are among the 66% of random mutations in the DNA of your gene, of the genes in your stem cells. Then at least you can detect the cancer early and beat it. Guys, Dr. B is a real doctor. He's a medical doctor. I'm a doctor. I'm a surgeon. I'm an expert in medical imaging with 14 licenses at high level in medical imaging in America. I have the record, the North American record in licenses in medical imaging, 14 of them, right? 14. And I've been in medicine for 30 years. I took the Hippocratic Oath to put your personal interest before mine. And I will never, ever tell you BS that has not been backed up by the scientific evidence. Unlike all these fake doctors, I don't know if they are fake or real, but I mean, after 2 minutes clicking on their video, I know that the guy is BSing just to get clicks and to sell his nasty products that have absolutely no evidence that they work. There's a lot of crook guys online. Be careful. Make sure you understand who is telling you what they are claiming they say, right? Who is this guy, right? Who is telling me that if I buy this product at $90, a tiny little bottle, my hair's gonna grow, my heart's gonna get younger, my skin's gonna be like when I was 20 years old, and my penis gonna get harder, and I mean, this is so crazy. I mean, the one I see the most is fat burning stuff, fat burning scams. And I call these healthcare scammers, right? And the number one scam is, of course, fat burning scam. Whether you have to put this on your tummy, this kind of oil, or maybe you have to drink that beverage or these pills. There are thousands of fat burning scams online. I posted other videos about the only ways to burn your fat, and it's very easy. It's the science. Everything else is just snake oil. It's just quackery, thievery. It's just garbage. Don't listen to them. Listen to Dr. B, because I love you. I took the Hippocratic Oath. I will never put my interest above yours. You will be always above my own interest. Guys, regardless of your gender, your race, your ethnicity, whoever the catso you are, male, female, anything in between, black, white, Chinese, Latino, white, anything. I don't give a damn about your religion, your politics, right? I love you, whoever you are. Get back to me, put your comments, your questions, any catso you want to ask. I will get back to you. It might take time, but I will get back to you, I promise. Because I work a lot. I work 8 to 10 hours a day, but I love it. I will never give up my work until I'm 100 years old. I love you guys. Talk to you in the next video. Bye-bye.